Hello, OMG, and welcome back to my channel, where today we have the final part of my foundation series featuring Huda Beauty's Faux Filter Foundation. So if you want to see how to strategically use this product and how to get this look, then go ahead and keep on watching. Okay, so we have made it to the final video of my foundation series, and we're going to be using Huda Beauty's Faux Filter Foundation. Now, this foundation is a little high-end to me because it is $40, so it's not really on like too much of the affordable side. It's also more on the expensive side. I honestly don't think I'll be purchasing a foundation that costs more than $40. I honestly just don't see the point with how many other good foundations there are out there. But honestly, I had tried this when it first came out and I had bought the wrong shade. This is seriously a full coverage matte foundation. Like, this is the foundation I use. Like, it's the one that I used before the whole shutdown. If me and the hubby went out, if we went out to dinner, to a bar, to maybe like an outing, this is what I would wear because it is so pretty. It has such a flawless finish, but it's also very matte. So you have to be very careful with what you use with this foundation. So I highly recommend using a sponge. I'm going to be using the Jeffree Star Morphe sponge to put on this foundation. Typically I use brushes, but for this one to apply it, in my opinion, it's just a lot easier to use a sponge. Now I'm on the website and there's a ton of shades, which is great. She has what it is, she has a bunch of tips, what else to know. There's a lot on the website that she explains in detail on how to use this foundation, the colors, like what primers to use, it looks like, how to get a not dry or cakey finish. I don't really want to read all that because it's a lot, so we just want to go ahead and get into this review. So this is what it looks like. It comes in a matte kind of feeling bottle. It's really pretty. I love that it has a pump. Now, I chose the color Creme Brulee, so I'm just gonna go ahead, and I didn't wet my sponge. I'm just gonna apply it on here, and I'm gonna show you guys what one pump looks like. So also, if you wanna see how to get this eye look, I have a tutorial on it dropping soon, so stay tuned. Now, what I do is I just strategically apply it. Now, I don't have on any primer. I'm not gonna really use primers for a while. I kind of like how my makeup looks without a primer, but this is how I put it on. So you just want to put on a little bit at a time and pat it in. Now, this one does dry right away, so you do have to be fast with your movements. You have to be fast with putting it into your skin, or else it's gonna end up looking crazy. I remember when I first got this foundation, oh my God, years ago when it came out, I had gotten the wrong color. I think the color that I had gotten back then was called Angel Baby or Angel Cake, something Angel. And I honestly just didn't, test out what shade I was. I just grabbed whatever shade I thought I was. Now, it is deceiving. Like, this looks darker for me, but it's honestly a good shade for me. So please make sure if you buy this foundation that you try to match it to what you actually are, because you don't want to be like me and just go by the outside color of the case, and then that's how you determine your shade. That's how I determined my shade when I first bought this foundation. And then I was kind of honestly debating buying it for a while because I just didn't want to spend $40, but I was like, you know what, I need a more coverage matte foundation that I'm going to use when going out, and I got this one and I love it. So I'm going to apply another pump. Now you can see very full coverage already, but I want to get a little bit more coverage, so I'm going to apply some more. I'm just going to go ahead and pat it in. Now, I don't really see a lot of influencers using her foundation. Maybe here in the United States, there's not a lot. I think that Huda Beauty, what's her real name? Huda Katan. I think she lives in Dubai. Maybe it's like a big hit over there with their influencers, but the only influencer that I follow that I see that uses her products and this foundation religiously is Carolina Enamorado. I hope I'm saying it correctly. She's stunning. Every time she posts her pictures, she puts what she uses, and she uses the Huda Beauty foundation. If you guys look at her makeup, like, it is stunning. It is flawless, like, just so pretty. And maybe it's because a lot of people just don't like Huda Beauty. I know that she's been controversial as well in the past, but I like to just, buy makeup for, how it performs, and this is a really good foundation. Now I look really white on camera, but in person it matches me pretty well. I think it's just because of my lighting in here that it kind of just makes me look like super white. But this is what 2 drops looks like. Like you guys, you can't even see like what was underneath, well, what was on my skin. And that is what I love about this foundation. Like you put it on and it's true. The description says like you don't need a filter. You literally look like a soft filter. Like it's magical. It also has a scent to it. I have allergies and the scent doesn't bother me. Kind of smells like a skincare and a flower scent all at the same time. But it smells decent and it really doesn't irritate me or my allergies. All right, so since this is such a super matte foundation, you want to be very careful with what products you use with this foundation, because I made the mistake in the past of trying to layer and layer more stuff onto this foundation and it just honestly peeled apart. And that is because it is super matte and it dries really, really quick. So I'm not going to be using a concealer for concealer. I'm going to be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Stick Foundation because this is more of like a dewy finish more than a matte finish. So I'm just gonna use this to conceal and I'm just gonna add where I would normally conceal. So I'm just gonna spot this on. I'm just gonna tap it on because again, if you try to add too many layers on top of this foundation, it'll literally like peel away. And I know that I probably look already white as it is and I may not need this step, but I want a little bit more of a glow with this. So I'm just gonna use the same sponge that I used for my foundation. I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this in. And I'm gonna bring it up, because I like my concealer to go up now to give me more of a snatched, like cat eye effect, almost like a facelift effect. I feel like that's all of a sudden trending right now, is like a cat eye look. So again, you kind of have to work fast because the base of the foundation makes everything dry down super quick. So it's definitely not the type of makeup where you want to let it sit there and get tacky and get sticky. Like, no, you need to move with it because this girl moves real fast. I'm just going to use any of the excess and apply it there. And then boom, like I know I'm looking ghostly, but it literally went on like butter. So the next we're going to cream contour, and I'm actually going to use my Milk Makeup Baked Bronzer. It is a matte one. Let me just grab it. It should be right here. Now, I know I've said not to use a bunch of matte products, but because I used the Anastasia Beverly Hills Stick Foundation as my concealer, this also kind of helps with, you know, it kind of helps make everything kind of just go on like butter. The thing with matte foundations is you don't want to use matte everything, matte on top of matte on top of matte on top of matte. And I said that time and time again. But it's so true, especially with a foundation like this. Like, you don't, trust me, if I used a matte concealer with this foundation, it literally would have been game over. So one of the tricks to this foundation is using a setting spray before blending. So just make sure you lightly spray. I'm using the iconic London Prep Set and Glow setting spray. And then we're just gonna go ahead, you know what, I think, should we use a sponge, should we use a brush? We're gonna use a sponge. Just gonna go ahead and blend this in. And this helps blend your cream contour. If I didn't set my face, it might look patchy, which is why with this specific foundation, you want to set your face before, you want to add some setting spray before you blend out your cream contour, because by now this foundation has dried down a lot. I've had it on for what, probably like 3 to 5 minutes since the last step. And the last thing you want is for all your hard work of blending and everything like that, of putting on your foundation, putting on the concealer. I use a foundation for concealer. Last thing you would want is for all of that to kind of just like wear away. For my nose, I'm going to blend it in using a brush just so I can get a little bit more precise. All right, so this is what we're looking like with the bronzer. Now, the only reason I was able to get away with using that matte bronzer was because I used that hydrating foundation as a concealer. If you don't have a hydrating foundation, then of course you want to use a hydrating concealer. I would recommend not the e.l.f. Camo one because that's matte, but the other e.l.f. one that they came out that's hydrating. I know CoverGirl has a couple of hydrating ones, and ColourPop just came out with some hydrating ones. So the only reason I was able to get away with a matte cream bronzer was because I added some type of hydrating mix into the makeup. So next is setting powder. Now I have the Huda Beauty translucent powder. I feel like she makes her products specifically to all work with each other, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I want to show you guys how to set this look and powder up without using necessarily all of her products. Now I recommend using with this specific foundation in combination a finely milled translucent powder. I'm going to use the Ciate one. It's really good. It's in the color, it just says Everyday Vacay Coconut Setting Powder. It is very finely milled. And then again, I recommend for when you use a matte foundation and you're setting and you're adding powders to use a fluffy brush like this. It's not a stiff fluffy brush because it just easily applies on over the matte foundation without creating any weird lines. You can use a sponge. I just personally like using a brush to apply on my translucent powder. That's just like my flavor at the moment. I might have to redo the bottom portion of my mascara because I got some powder in there. You want to make sure you add and blend this everywhere. Just kind of like pressing it onto the skin, and honestly this brush just feels so good. And then I'm going to apply it towards the middle and then just a little bit on my forehead. Just want to make sure I get every part. And then in my nose. And then again, just everywhere. And we're set. This might not be the exact proper way how like other makeup influencers or other makeup artists use their matte, you know, formulas in their toolkit, but this is specifically how I use it and what I would recommend to you guys. Right now I'm going through a spell of oily skin, so this is honestly a perfect combination for me because I'm using matte, I'm using a little bit of hydrating, and you know, it just works for me. And if it works for me, it might honestly just, you know, work for you. So the next part of the routine is bronzer, and of course we're going to be using Morphe's Glamour Bronze bronzer in the color Icon. When using a matte foundation, I highly recommend using this bronzer, and the reason is it goes on like butter, literally like butter. And I've said this before in one of my previous videos that if you're going to be rocking a matte foundation and you're going to be adding some powder bronzer, you want to use a fluffy brush when doing that so that you don't get patchy and spotty. If you use something smaller, you might look patchy and spotty. So I'm just gonna lightly apply this over where I did the cream contour. And you want to start off with just a little bit because this is such a matte foundation that if you start off with a lot and then you try to keep blending and blending and blending, you might look patchy. So as you can see, I'm just like lightly spotting it on and kind of like flicking it. And that is just so that it doesn't look all sorts of crazy and it doesn't look patchy. It's almost like you have to get to know. It's like you're in a relationship with your makeup. You have to get to know how to work with it, how to make it work, what works, what doesn't. I mean, makeup is it's definitely a tricky relationship because you definitely got to figure out how to go about a lot of things. But I mean, once you figure it out, it's smooth sailing from there. It's like that's the best analogy for how to figure out makeup is it's literally like a relationship. Like you have to figure out what works on your good days, what works on your bad days, how to not argue with your makeup, how to make sure that, you know, your makeup feels loved. You know, that's just how makeup is. And then we're gonna add some to my big old forehead, because we like to make the forehead look smaller. And guys, I put my hair up. I love how my hair looks half up, half down. I just honestly have so much breakage and baby hairs and flyaways, and I know that I could use like oils and gels to put it down, but honestly just don't feel like it. I kind of just want my hair to breathe, but I really like how it looks half up, half down. So if you see a bunch of flyaways, just ignore it. I'm going through a phase where letting the hair grow out. We're not really, you know, dyeing it anymore. It's more of like, you know, let's just let her breathe. So now we're just gonna do some powder contour on the nose. I know that the nose is already pretty heavily cream contoured. I just want a little bit more definition, just because in particular, I don't like my nose. I feel like it's just a big old Greek nose. I am Greek. So next we're going to take the BH Cosmetics Matte Finish Pressed Powder. And this one is okay to use because we're gonna use a little fluffy brush, and we're just gonna apply some underneath of the eyes. We're gonna blend in that nose contour with some powder, apply a little bit right here, kind of blend in right here to get rid of any harsh lines. Just gonna add some here just in case we got a little too carried away with the cream bronzer, which kind of looks like I did. Kind of added way too much. Now my face looks a little dark right here. Just gonna clean that up. And now it is time for blush. So I'm going to be using the Becca Cosmetics Snapdragon blush, and I got it in a BoxyCharm as well. It's really pretty. Now again, I highly recommend when you're wearing such a matte foundation, using this brush for pretty much everything powder related except for bronzer. I'm going to use this to put on my blush, and I'm just gonna spot it on. And you can still get your strategic with using this brush, because you could just add it to the tips and then use the tips to apply your blush on your face. And the reason is, if you use a thicker brush, you might honestly just end up making your makeup look patchy, because that was my experience in the past with this foundation. Like if I used brushes that were a little hard on the skin, you know how like after you clean your brushes and they do get a little bit hard, you know, just from like wear and tear. I noticed that my makeup was looking patchy with this foundation. So pretty much you want to use as lightly soft brushes as you can. So next we want to set the face again. So we're going to be using the Iconic London Same Setting Spray, and we're just going to apply it. And this really helps to hydrate a matte foundation because it is a glowy setting spray. So it just really helps bring it all together. So next we're gonna go ahead and dive into highlight. We're going to be using the Laura Lee Los Angeles Glazed Lip Kit. We're going to be using Glow Gal. I would show it to you guys, but I cracked it, so I have to be very careful. So we're gonna apply some to, I know I already have glitter on my eyes. We're gonna apply a little bit to the inner corners. Just a little bit, just to kind of tie in all this matteness. And then I like to do on my tip of my nose. I like the bridge. I'm just gonna use this fluffy brush to go back in. I kind of just like to blend in the highlight, just so it looks a little bit more skin-like. And I'm gonna use the same brush to just lightly tap into the highlight, and then I'm just gonna spread it up here. Just for like a little glow. I'm just gonna put a little bit of this everywhere because this can get a little bit drying looking throughout the day. So you wanna apply your highlight to your T-zone, to your cheeks, and to a little bit of your chin so that you don't look like super dry throughout the rest of the day. So this is pretty much almost final look. Just gotta add some lipstick, so I'll be right back. All right, my jewelry, so this is the final look, and I'm telling you the combination of all the products that I used, how I strategically used it, what brushes I used, it just all makes this look super rich, super beautiful, perfect for summertime, perfect for oily skin. I'm telling you, if you don't have this foundation, you're in the market for one and you have the means for it, make sure you purchase it. I'll go ahead and link it down below. But anyways, I really hope this video was informative for you guys. Please make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe subscribe, click that bell to get notified every time when I upload a video. Also, please make sure to do your part and stay home. Also, remember to spread peace, love, and happiness. I will see you all in my next video.